You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to our spoiler-free analysis of Season 2, Episode 2 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is entitled Unwomen. Let's do our round of introductions.
Hi, I'm Ginger.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
I'm Claudia.
And I'm Kate. So before we get into the episode, we are very excited to congratulate our podcast panelist, Yulia, who is on this recording, for the birth of her first baby girl, Yuna, on Friday after a long 4 days of labor. We're super proud of you and can't wait to have Yuna on our podcast. But let's start with this episode. So I thought it was cool how the last episode ended with her saying, "I am free," and looking all bloody and like really good shot of her after she tore her ear tag out. But she says, "I'm free." And then this episode opens with, "Is this what freedom looks like?" And she's laying down on a truck. It kind of looks like a cattle transporter, the way that she's laying and the slats are beside her. But she does this whole monologue. What will happen if I get out? It probably doesn't matter. There probably is no out. Gilead has no bounds. Aunt Lydia says, "Gilead is within you, like the spirit of the Lord." Yeah, I just think that that's probably true about Gilead. So also she says, you know, you get comfortable really fast. And I don't think that's true. I don't think she was ever comfortable. You know, I think you adjust and accept it. But
I think that's what she meant, though. Like you quickly adapt to your surroundings, even though they're awful. Like
right,
it's your routine. Like she's got a very strict routine as a handmaid.
Yeah, and that license plate, I don't know either. 526-459. So if any of our listeners want to crack that license plate, let us know. It's the same last three digits as the last license plate, but reverse 954. Okay, moving on. So he says the driver says the place has been empty since before the war, which
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they killed the journalist first, or
I noticed later on it has been said that on the newspapers, on the stopped machines, you can see that they are writing about the attacks. So the attacks were first. Then the newspapers were killed off.
Disbanded, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say on the newspaper, it said something like the aftermath of America's bloodiest day.
I think it's like 1 or 2 days later that they were killed off and then the war started.
I have the clipping of the newspaper, the whole thing. It's dated September 15th. That's like when the massacre in the newspaper happened. They don't know exactly when the President's Day massacre happened, but it was obviously around that time, maybe the day before, 2-3 days before. But the massacre was in September, the Congress attacks.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's in Nick's clothes, by the way. She's wearing his brown shirt like the whole episode, which is adorable. And it's just nice that he went in his closet and brought her all his clothes, and I love it. So the guy says to stay inside, and she says, "What's next?" And he's like, "I was supposed to get you here safe. You're here safe." And then she says, under his eye, because she's just been so conditioned. And he says, "After a wild crocodile." I like that. It's cute.
Do you think she said that to test him?
I don't think so. I think she just, personally, I think it's just stuck in her mannerisms, you know? Just
I think
instinctual
so
at this point.
It seems she doesn't know what to say differently. It's like the thing she says. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think she also just doesn't always know who to trust either. And he's another man in Gilead. But I thought it was cute that he said the after a while crocodile thing, because it kind of shows that he doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff, you know?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
And then you hear helicopters and sirens like everywhere, very close. You can tell, looking for her as the truck is leaving. They're really close.
Just a second. Did any one of you think about where the bags are coming from? Does Mayday have a stack of stuff that they...
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I was like, wait, did she pack? Did she pack before she left?
No, it was either Nick.
I know, yeah.
Or Mady has some clothes and stuff
ready to
somewhere
go.
ready for people to get out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in them.
The guy too said to her though, there's water and power, which made me wonder, like, do other places not have water and power? You know what I mean? Like, they obviously chose the Boston Globe location for a specific reason.
Yeah, because it has still electricity. And I wondered, does nobody ever notice that this place is still running?
Exactly. Like, why would you leave those facilities on in the first place if it's abandoned? Nobody's using it. Why would you leave it on?
I agree. I thought that was strange. It's a huge place.
I guess they could have a generator or something, like if they know that that's where they're going to be taking people.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
So she runs around with her flashlight, looking for a hiding space. So she's clearly very scared. She gets it. She hears the sirens and the helicopters. I don't even think she'd be using her flashlight with them so close. But anyway, and now she has a hammer.
The one thing I wanted to add was I saw a quote from Warren Littlefield. He's one of the executive producers. He just mentioned, like, choosing the Boston Globe for this episode was just really significant. And his quote was, "We know how dramatic and powerful and important that story was to show how horribly the press could be treated in the fascist world of Gilead." So it was definitely very symbolic that they chose that.
I like that.
I only had the one note that because everyone is looking for everyone. There's sirens, there's helicopters, just for one handmaid, yeah?
Yeah.
And we know that Nick is coming to see her later. So I wondered if he was pretending to look for her too, and that's how he got the time.
Right, he must be, right?
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah.
Which is ridiculous because Serena has seen how he looked at her before that. So, yeah.
All they have to do at any point during this 2 months is follow Nick, right?
Yes.
But I don't care. I love them at the Globe. So then we go to the first real shot of the colonies, and there's radiation signs everywhere, masks everywhere. Dave, I was watching with Dave this morning, and he's like, what is the purpose of what they're doing? They're shoveling radiation soil into these bags. Where do the bags go? What is the purpose of what they're doing?
They're just trying to probably get to the bottom of all the radioactive stuff to clear the land.
Each woman has to shovel 10 bags full of that shit every day, or they don't get something to eat.
Oh, really?
Yes, they say it later to the wife.
Oh my God. So, and what happened that there is such radiation?
So, like a nuclear war,
did
the government use the nukes on their own people?
Okay.
All of the colonies are like marked on nuclear sites.
Yes.
On the map.
Okay.
The thing that was I was wondering about was about the aunts. Can we call them aunts? Why are they sentenced to serve there? Because I'm sure
they're gonna die too.
Yeah, at some point.
They're also wearing masks where the hand.
Yeah, but that doesn't you don't have to touch anything to get radiation, right?
It's going to get them eventually.
Yes. So
it's a good question. What did they do? I mean, they're being punished.
And the fact that there seem to be no fences threw me a little off. I know there are the guards on horses, but otherwise Emily's going outside for one point and no one is around. So they probably think they are too weak to do any shit. So that's
the other thing Dave said. I don't know what those tools are called. Do you guys that they're carrying?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have that Grim Reaper word in my head, but I don't even know how to say it. That SCYTHE word.
Scythe.
Is that what it is? Scythe. Thank you. I can spell it, but I can't say it. Okay, so Dave was like, wait, there's hundreds of them with these very, like, those would be good weapons, right? They could easily overpower the people that are tasing them and stuff right now.
Might be too weak at that point. After
the most, yeah.
I think they are, because even when Emily's trying to say the prayer, she can't really even keep up with everybody because she's too weak.
Yeah, they did such a good job of this horrifying place.
Yeah, the makeup is so scary and so perfect. I mean, there were so many women there that day must have been so extremely exhausting for Burton.
I can give you a little insight to our friend Burton.
Yay.
He did an interview and he said that between every 6 to 7 extras, there was 98 women extras at the colonies, and he had one makeup artist per every 6 to 7, and he set up stations like according to each character's stage of life in the colony. So it would be like 1 to 2 weeks, which was probably Emily, and then they'd have a 3-month station and then a 6-month station. So obviously every station got worse. So by 6 months, everyone, the makeup
Nearly
team
dead.
would be making them look, basically nearly dead. So I thought that was interesting.
That's so
That's cool.
interesting. And I didn't know that before. And that's a really good way to organize it. But anyway, we love Burton. So Emily looks bad, but not as bad as the people that have blisters on their face and stuff. So that's really interesting. And the bell rings and they pray. And it's just so upsetting. The show is so good at making you feel uncomfortable.
I'm also sad for the horses getting all that radioactivity. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
Don't be mean to the horses.
Weird how you don't see many animals in Gilead, like dogs, cats. I assume they just killed them all.
You hear them though. You always hear dogs.
Oh, that's true. There's a lot of
always.
shepherds, yes.
But you never see them.
Uh-huh. So then it flashes to Emily lecturing at college. She's a cell biologist. And one girl is feeling like bullied by a boy in the class. So she pulls her aside and tells her, like, don't let that get you down, And she says, does it get better? And she's like, no, it never gets better, but you just got to ignore it. And she shows her a picture of her wife and her child on her phone. And there's a guy walking by.
The same guy.
Really?
The same rude guy. Yeah, the Gilead dude.
Oh my God.
But he walked fast. Yeah, he walked fast.
He walked by first.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody else walked by after.
I don't know if he could have seen the picture on the phone.
Yeah, I don't think it was him because he walked by first and he was annoyed with her.
So it had to be her.
I think it was her that reported her.
I think it was a girl.
There was another guy that walked by though. I think it was probably him. I rewound to watch it.
But maybe the girl didn't mean to say it like she didn't want to call her out, but she told someone.
Just said it, yeah.
And she probably told someone. Yeah.
But not in a bad way, yeah.
Right.
But also, like, things were already starting to go south.
Yeah.
Gilead, So I feel like even if you mean well, I think people are just getting scared. So they probably also want to follow the rules or just look out for themselves,
And it was after DC happened. So everybody's on high alert already.
Yeah.
I think the way the scene played, because then he tells her afterwards, did you show someone a picture on your phone? And the only person she showed was a girl. So I think it was kind of hinted that it was her. That's why I got it. That's why I understood it was her. But
that's what I thought too.
I also looked to see if I talked with Claudia to see if she was wearing the same clothes, but she's wearing different clothes. So it's a different day. So it's not like it was straight after that happened.
It was filmed, so it kind of looked like it was straight after her. So I'm glad you noticed that. So then she's talking to her male boss, the guy from the office, and he tries to package her bad news as if it's good news. Extra lab time, no classes. So she's being taken out of the classroom, and he says, you should think of this as an opportunity. And she said, you should think of it as opposed to what it is. And then we find out it's because she's a lesbian and she showed somebody this picture on her phone.
But I thought it was interesting that he said the board says you're not maintaining a healthy learning environment, aka she's married to a woman.
Yes, exactly. And she says, I'm not going to hide my family. And then he reveals that, he's also gay, but he has hidden the pictures of his family. And she says, yeah, I noticed. I thought you guys had gotten in a fight. And he was like, well, we did get in a lot of fights too, because he says that I'm a collaborator, just going along with, hiding. And she says, Paul's a drama queen. They can't scare us back into the closet, which is unfortunately untrue.
That's a heavy line.
Yeah.
Can't scare us back in the closet.
Yeah, it's great writing.
And he was saying he thought that his generation was the last one that has to hide.
Right.
So, and what I took from that scene was that Emily was already a fighter back in her normal days.
Yeah, good point.
She didn't want to hide. She wanted to do the good fight. You see it later on the airport as well.
Right.
But she is just not backing down. And so it's no wonder that when June meets her, that Emily's already in the in Mayday.
Yeah. I love Emily. She's just so badass. She doesn't seem like she's like this vengeful person, but she is.
Yes.
I love it.
I thought it was sad too, though, like when he said he thought his was the last generation that would have to go through that. Because not only does Emily's generation, you know, everything gets thrown back into like old school biblical days with Gilead, but it's like it goes back even further than what his generation had to deal with homosexuality, you know?
Right.
So I just thought that was very sad.
It is really sad.
It's a great contrast also. It's a great contrast with what happens, you know, with generations and when you get rights for minorities, you know, people get used to them. Yeah. And then, you know, when shit happens, they're a little bit more compliant, you know, and the contrast between her boss and her is there. Like she wants to fight and he just wants to kind of survive.
Yeah.
So those are kind of like the two versions of people.
Yeah, 'cause he's used to that.
So then he says, welcome to the fight. It sucks. When in fact, she's going to be fighting a lot more than him. Then back to the colonies. Everybody's sick and dying. Emily's doctoring people because she's, you know, she's an educated scientist. They're using what they have. I like when somebody said best nail place in town, and she says, give me a good review on Yelp. I like all the throwbacks to our lives and how it used to be. So then she's deciding whether to give one woman medicine, and she decides not to waste it because she's too near death, and says, you know, maybe some mint tea will settle her stomach instead. And she's just having to make these decisions that are very hard on a person.
It's just weird to me that she's going to get mint from the outside.
I know.
That's full of radioactive. I mean, I get it, you know, but everything's contaminated.
No, I don't think mint would grow there.
It's like hospice care, basically, at this point, like just trying to make her feel
That's
better.
what she's saying. But I agree that I don't think mint would grow there. Like nothing's growing there. So it takes her outside so she can see the wife get off of the bus. And it's Marissa Tomei, yay! She looks out of sorts. She gets down on her knees to like pray. It's like she still doesn't get it, kind of. And then we flash to June scraping the hammer down the wall. She's looking at everybody's cubicles. She sees a single shoe on the ground, Dusty Friends DVD. And then when she turns the lights on in the room, she sees a bunch of bullet holes in the wall and blood all over the walls. The cinematography is great, but she realizes that this has been a slaughterhouse, as she says later.
That whole scene is so haunting.
It is.
But back to the desk thing, though, I thought it was interesting when she was going through the desk that one in particular that she focused on was a woman's desk, and she had a picture of her husband and daughter there, and then artwork of her daughter. So I feel like that was like purposeful to kind of show like she's thinking of her family too, you know?
Yeah.
They could relate to this woman.
Yeah, especially because the one shoe was right there at the desk, so we can assume that it was her.
Mm-hmm.
And later she finds the other one and realizes that this woman didn't even lose her daughter but her life. So
and what's interesting is they didn't really think about, they just killed everyone that was a journalist, obviously, but some of those women would have been fertile.
Yes.
Yeah. They're not smart. We see this time and again. They're not actually smart. They're not actually.
Yeah, but they did this right after the attacks, probably. So they didn't really get the Handmaid idea then.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think they killed them all because they were the press. That's just the way to silence the press and up the fear. Because if she's looking at the office, it kind of looks similar to her office too. So maybe she was thinking about that. Because after, you know, I got confused when I saw the scene. So I'm like, I thought the woman got fired. But then I started investigating a little bit more, trying to figure out the timeline, which is almost impossible. But, you know, they killed the press almost immediately after the takeover. And then is when all the women get fired. So if June would have worked as a journalist instead of an editor, that could have been her demise. She could have died.
Oh God, yes.
But I think it's interesting too, because being an editor and a journalist, I mean, they're not the same job, but they're somewhat similar, you know? So
a lot of
it has to do with the words, and, you know, they can't read. And like you mentioned, the importance of the press.
So she hears the loading dock bay open and she's terrified, and her face acting here is just phenomenal. And don't understand how she does it, but the terror, you can like feel the terror that she's experiencing.
Well, that whole scene, because they show her looking terrified before we see like what she's seeing when she goes downstairs.
The noses.
Yeah, before we see the
you're right.
and the bullet holes, and like because you're sitting there looking at her like, what is going, like, what is she seeing that she looks like she's the most terrified she's ever been in her life, you know? And then you see the nooses behind her, and then of course it gets worse.
The cinematography, it's so good.
It's amazing. And you start hearing the heartbeat. It's in the music.
I didn't even realize that, but that's amazing.
It does as if it's hers.
Right. They're so good at every little detail.
She just had the experience with the nooses in Fenway Park as well. That's kind of like the first thing she sees when she goes down is the nooses hanging.
Right. And we see another noose later in the episode. So then Nick says June, and you can see the relief like flooding her face.
Sorry, but you can hear that he cocks his gun before that. As he takes it out because he didn't know where she was, and he was scared that maybe someone has got her or something, because you hear him take his gun out before she drops or after she drops the hammer. So he just hears that and is in fear for her life. So
how could there be something I didn't notice in the scene that I have watched 1,000 times? Oh my god, I'm gonna go back and watch.
And that's why he has the hand on his gun when she comes.
Yeah, he does. And you see the relief in his body too. Like his body acting is amazing. He just like takes a breath and like slumps, and they go and they hug each other, but she's acting weird. Like, you know, normally they're always touching, and all of a sudden she's pulling away from him, and he has his like arm out like after her, like not understanding why she's pulling away.
But she doesn't even hug him back. Her arms stay at her sides, and then he hugs her, and then she like shrugs away from him, which she never does. So you could tell already that she's completely spooked and traumatized.
Right. And he can tell this is not normal, June and me.
Like in that whole scene, she reminds me of like a caged animal.
Yeah.
It's like she's jittery, like she can't think rationally at this point, you know?
That is a fact. So they go into the like best fight. I love this fight scene because they're so real with each other. I know she said in another episode that she never fights with Luke, and that just seems like not real, sort of. But I mean, they were obviously in a much simpler situation, but I do love the fact that these two can yell at each other and get in each other's faces.
But they're leveled, they're balanced, their fight is completely balanced. It's amazing to me to watch.
But I think with Luke, she was with her whole relationship with him, I feel like she was always meek and holding back. So I think she was just too afraid to fight with him.
Yeah.
Because his love is not as unconditional. Whereas Nick, they've always been on an even playing field, and he's always given her that space to let her be herself.
Right.
So, you know, these two don't fight very much, but when they do, it's over. I mean, really, it's over fear, you know?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And they're both terrified in this scene.
Right.
She hits him, she curses at him, and he still stays. I mean, of course, he yells a bit back, especially when she says, "You want to play the hero." That's when he was like, no. he never wanted to do this, but for
that is funny.
Yeah.
I thought that line was interesting though, where she says, "You want to play the hero," because I actually think they're both mad at each other because they both think the other one is playing the hero.
Yes,
because he calls her the rebel handmaid commander because she's being the hero at the stoning.
Right.
But she thinks he's playing hero because of this whole Mayday thing, when in reality, they're both just trying to survive and they're scared, you know?
Right. They're both so scared.
And they're trying to help
each other. Yeah. So she wants to leave right away, and Nick says, "We can't. We have to lay low. There's nowhere for you to go." And she's like, "No, we're going to get Hannah. We're going to go north. We're going to get out of here." And he's like, "No, we're not. I'm sorry." It's just she's always the, what's the word I'm looking for? Impulsive. Thank you. She's always so impulsive, and he's slower play, grand scheme, calm down. They're perfect together.
Did they ever talk about Hannah on screen? I was just wondering that, because when they say Hannah, I'm like, I don't think they ever talked about it.
This is the first time that we know that Nick knows about Hannah.
Right.
So they had to have talked about her, I'm assuming, at his apartment at some point.
Well, people think that they don't know each other, but she says, "I've gone to Nick time and time again." So they've had time to talk.
Yeah.
Like, people always say they don't know each other. Like, how can she trust them? I mean, we already discussed that, but it's not like she's there waiting for him to text her back after a date. This is a life or death situation. So if he doesn't come back, something happened to him, and people don't understand the risks that he took to orchestrate all this, because they think that she's the only one in risk. Like if they catch him, he's their driver. Like it's obviously they're going to interrogate the household. He keeps disappearing to see her. Like I don't even know how he pulled it off because it's a risk. She's pregnant. Nothing's going to happen to her. He's going to die. So he is literally risking his life, like he says, for her and for our baby.
Yeah.
So I think it was powerful that he said our baby, because I think it helped June kind of come out of her mania for a minute and realize that this is, their little family together. And it's not just her involved in this.
I also like, on that note, sort of, when she says we're going to get Hannah and we're going to go north, like she's including him in this escape too,
Mm-hmm.
And I like that that's how she's picturing her escape from Gilead, is with Nick, together. But then, he knows he can't calm her down when she finally demands, give me the fucking keys. And he's like he laughs because he's just like, I can't believe this. Okay. I always give her agency. I'm going to give her the keys. He hands her the keys, praying that she's going to come to her senses. And she will, because she doesn't know where Hannah is. So I think he can be pretty confident she's not going to drive out of there.
But that is so significant, though. Like, this man is so selfless. And this is one of those scenes that really shows that, because we all know how stupid this is for her just to get in a car and drive.
Right.
And that pregnant handmaid. And he knows this, but she told him back in episode 105, in the kitchen, don't tell me what to do. So this is him following through on what she asked him not to do. So he's not telling her. I mean, obviously he doesn't want her to go, but he's not going to stop her. So I just think it's incredibly selfless of him to do that, because also, I mean, this is a huge risk to his life.
That's a death sentence to him.
It is, because he's giving her the keys, so his transportation, his gun, and then he's going to be left there, which means if she really did leave, like, obviously the Waterfords or whoever would find him and he'd be killed. And he does it anyway for her, which is just so powerful.
Yeah. It's 100% death sentence. He's not going to return to the Waterford house when he's supposed to. Eventually they'll find him and they'll kill him, and that's it. So,
and then I think when he gives her the gun, I think that also starts snapping her out of this, because she's realizing, like, oh shit, like, I need this gun.
I'm going to need a gun.
But also he's giving me everything right now.
You can see it on her face.
Yeah, you can see her like kind of stunned. She looks like she's kind of taking it in when he hands her the gun.
But she's not ready to give in yet.
I think maybe she was expecting him to be like, are you, like, what's the typical response? Like, you're acting crazy, calm down, like, come here. And he doesn't do that. He's like, okay, you want to go? Here's a gun.
Especially because he's giving away everything from him, so he will be
unprotected.
Yeah, he has no chance to escape. He just can stay there and wait for somebody to find him.
Yep.
So,
but it shows the trust between them too, though. Like, I mean, obviously he's giving her all these things, but I think the whole time he's praying that she's going to change her mind and make the right decision, which she does. But
he does it when she's in the car. He's like, just come back. Stop.
Yeah. So she opens the loading bay doors and gets in the car, and he stands in the same position she was in earlier when the truck pulled out. But he's looking in the car. He's mouthing something that we can never figure out. People have different theories.
Come on is the closest guess.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. I would love to know what that is.
How could she leave that little face?
She realized she
can't.
Well, she can't. Yeah, she can't.
And he just stands there hoping she comes to her senses, and she does, and she's like, fuck, like hitting the steering wheel. And it's just so June. And you see him take this like heavy breath of relief once he realizes she's giving in.
Oh, sorry, I want to make a comment. I thought it was interesting because there's a parallel here, because when June is dropped off at the Boston Globe, she stands at the door there for the garage and watches the guy drive away. And she looks terrified because now she's left all alone. And then you have Nick standing at the garage door looking at June in the car, terrified that she's going to drive away. And then she doesn't. Good. So I thought that was a really interesting parallel.
It is. So he closes the door and she comes up, walks past him, puts the guns and the keys down and waits for him to come to her. And he's twisting his finger like he does when he's nervous, which is adorable.
I'm going to pause you for a second because this part is like my favorite thing in this entire scene. Like, it's very specific, but when she comes back in And obviously she's just like freaked out and then calmed down. Anytime I've ever had like an irrational freak out, obviously the next reaction is to be sort of embarrassed and like feel sort of like ridiculous, I guess. Like, I don't know that she necessarily feels that way, but I think there's probably a little bit of that going on. Like, I just acted crazy and now here I am coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the way that he like looks at her and doesn't say anything is like the most perfect thing in this whole episode to me, because it's like, it just, I don't know, it's like a safety thing. Like, she knows that he's not like laughing at her or thinking that she's being ridiculous. It's just like, yeah, I'm not doing a good job of explaining it.
No, you are, because I totally get that, because as a stubborn person, I can relate to June. And I feel like when you're really stubborn, it's really hard to give in. Like, you're wrong, but it's hard to admit it. Mm-hmm. So she's obviously admitting that here, and you do feel stupid, I guess, for acting that way.
Yeah, just the way that he reacts to her coming back is so perfect, because it's not judgmental. It's not making her feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm. He just looks happy that she changed her mind, or relieved, I should say, relieved.
Yeah, he kind of like nods a little bit, like, yeah, love it.
He's extremely nervous how to proceed from there, because he wants to take her in his arms, but he fears that she is still angry and doesn't want that. So he gets to her really slowly and waiting for her to make a move.
Yeah, because notice how he goes in to kiss her, and it's like, I think of that scene from Hitch where
yes, oh my god,
like, you go 90, she goes 10 when you're doing a kiss.
Yes,
and
he does.
I feel like that's what they were doing, because he's trying to kiss her, but he stops waiting for her to make the final move. And then she pulls his hair.
she takes it a different direction. Swerve. Yeah. So she pulls his head back and exposes his neck, which is just a very vulnerable position.
Which also I thought was funny too, because she literally ends up having him holding him by the balls, and he just totally
lets her,
submits to her, you know.
Yeah, so he does. He totally submits to her. And yep, she unzips his pants and goes down south. And he lets that happen. Like, still, she's holding his head, like pulling his hair. And finally, he switches like the power dynamic, because they're very good at trading power. And he pushes her against the what is that thing? A newspaper?
A paper stack, I think.
Container. I don't know. Whatever it is, he pushes her against it, and now he's in control. And very quickly they get pants off and get into it.
But I love that part though, because she's so dominant with pulling his hair and then literally holding him by the balls. And then it's like he senses that that's what she needs right now. Right. So then he pushes her against the wall and takes the power. And when he first does it, his hand is kind of like on her throat a little bit, which is kind of
similar to what she just did.
Dangerous and very dominant. But then he immediately switches it to hold her face like he usually does, which I think also shows he's giving her the rough and dominant feelings that she wants, but then he switches it back to
he's nickling,
loving, like he always is.
Yeah. So then she bites him, and I love the look between them there. She's still like challenging, like, yeah, what about it? And he's like, I don't even know how to describe his look, but I can't believe you just did that.
I was just thinking that if you leave too much of a mark, Fred's going to be like, oh, Nick, you have a hickey there. Where's that from?
What happened? A bug bite.
That occurs to me too, but that's okay. And he drops her and spins her around and holds her head down and switches their position so that he's in the dominant position now. And she loves it. Her face is like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted, Nick.
She is super happy.
But again, you see him being like, you see that sweet Nick coming out though, because he holds her hair, right? And he's very dominant, but then
he's like holding both her hands.
I thought he was pushing her head down, like.
Yeah.
Yes. He's getting her in position.
She can't bite him anymore.
And through the whole thing, his like right hand is holding her hand the whole time. In the wide shot.
Oh.
Like, this is kind of comparing their scene to like their first major. So there are two major sex scenes, this one and then the first one. I thought it's interesting that whenever they're having sex, they're always very close to each other. Like in the first one, in 105, you know, like he's on top of her first, their bodies are close together. Then she gets on top, but she immediately pulls him up so he's close to her. And then I thought it was interesting in this one, it was the same thing. Like, you know, he's holding her against the stack, so their bodies are close. Then when he flips her, you know, he could be standing up, but he's still like, he grabs her hair and then he bends in so that he's like, his head is touching hers and their bodies are still close together, which I think is significant, like showing that they need that connection to each other.
Yeah.
Because even at the end, like when he grabs her hand, he leans forward and puts his head on her head again. So that they're always like, their upper bodies are always touching.
They're like magnets, you know?
Coming back to the bite, I think she did that because he was going to be gentle again. She wanted to get all the anger out, and this is not what she wanted.
Well.
And so she was like, give me more.
Yeah, I think that his expression when she does that is him like taking that in. Like he's like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing now. I got it.
I also love that her bloody ear is exposed, because I think it's kind of symbolic too, showing that like this is very raw and primal that's going on between them. And I think the ear kind of shows too, like they're both like their feelings and their pain and their fear and everything is exposed here.
I thought about that too. I was thinking about the fact that he doesn't care that there's blood everywhere, and that, I mean, she must have not showered for some time now. Yeah, we don't know when she was hauled off from the first place,
right?
And he doesn't care. He kisses her everywhere. There's blood everywhere. So
they're amazing. So then it flashes from this scene, and again he grabs her hand at the end because he's like the most romantic, even when he's being rough. And then it flashes to her on top, over by the cubicles on the floor. Apparently they've just been fucking like all night long, and there's so much sweat, and he's so spent, right? He can like hardly like,
he can't even open his eye.
He's dead.
Yeah. And once he comes, she lays down beside him for like 1 second, and then she wants to go at it again. Like, and he just like, he looks over at her and she looks at him, and then she looks down.
She grabs him.
Oh, does she? I thought it was just her eyes.
No, she looks down, and then you hear her hand coming flesh to flesh.
You hear her hit his skin.
I don't know where she's putting her hand, but you.
I think you do.
You hear where she touches.
And he says, I can't. And she says, try, and clearly is about to get back on him.
Yeah, but you know he's gonna follow through. You know he's not gonna say no to her.
No, he never does. How many times do you think they did it before that?
5.
So this is gonna be 6.
I have a theory.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I have a theory. So in the script notes, it says they moved from the loading bay to the office area, and it says they've been at it for a while. And when they first have sex, it's nighttime because they shut the garage. You can see it's night.
Yeah.
And then when they're in the office, obviously there's the sun, the daylight. So we know their first time was against the stacks there. We know they did it, in the office. And then that he's not going to say no to her again. So that's 3. So I feel like there had to have been between nighttime and the sun coming up, there had to have been at least 2 or 3 other times. That's why my scientific theory is 5 or 6. Yes.
Your advanced analysis.
And the fact that you can see the plates on the floor, like there's time has passed.
They needed energy.
They had to take a break for something.
They ate something.
Very small break.
Can you imagine him back at the Waterford house after this? Like,
especially because it's morning. He was like coming back and had duties.
He's got to go to work.
And he was like probably sleepwalking.
Totally exhausted.
Yeah.
That's actually my favorite thing to imagine recently. I just think about that all the time. Like I'm just like trying to get through the day.
Yeah, there's no way that there was not a mark left on his neck. So I don't know how anybody did not discover him.
Rita did.
She had
for
to.
sure.
Yeah, she must have. But also, even if Fred had seen a mark on his neck, there's no way he would have actually figured out that it was June who made it. So he was like, oh, cool. Oh, he's got a woman. Maybe he went to Jezebel's or whatever.
Jezebel's, yeah. Because Fred's stupid.
Probably they thought he was looking for her. Because I can imagine Fred going like, why are you so tired? And he's like, I was looking the whole night.
I looked everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Quite literally. All right. So that's an awesome scene. We love it. So then we go back to the colonies, and Emily's like eyeing Marissa Tomei, the wife. What does the wife have a name? I missed.
They say the name of her husband is mentioned, but I forgot. Connors, Mrs. Connors.
Mrs. Connors, all right. Somebody's fingernail comes off. Like, we get it, guys. So gross. And she's Mrs. Connors is washing her hands really hard, and Emily says, do it gentler. And she says, I don't want to get an infection. I need to get all the dirt out. And she's like, well, the water's full of, contamination anyway. And Emily offers her alcohol, like befriending her sort of. And Mrs. Connors reveals that she had an affair while her husband was also having an affair with the handmaid, and he didn't get punished, but here she is at the colonies. And then she's all like, I fell in love. Do you think that matters? Like, she still cares that God judges her for this, which is crazy to me because of the crimes that you commit in Gilead. That how could you be okay with that and then be worried that God would be mad at you for having an affair, right? It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
But it shows the power imbalance too, because he had an affair too and nothing happened to him.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't know if he lost a body part.
Yeah, I was going to say, you see Warren, obviously, he lost his arm. So if he's actually, having an affair with a handmaid, which Warren did, I'm sure something else probably happened to her husband that she didn't know about.
Well, they were trying to get him off the hook, though. I think the other commanders try to get them off the hook to cover for their own sins when they can, but
because they know they all do the same thing.
Right. But Price didn't let that happen, and Mrs. Putnam did not let that happen. So I don't know. And then Emily gives her what she believes are antibiotics, and Marissa's like, why are you doing Mrs. Connors is like, why are you doing this? And I like this line because when Emily says a mistress was kind to me and then pauses and says once, is she saying 99% of the time mistresses are terrible? Or is it just a lie? I don't know.
When she said that, I kind of flashed back to, that one time where she's in the back playing with the dog and the woman says, we'll skip this month.
Yeah, that's true.
And it looked like she was trying to do that more than once, because Emily was like, you can't do that every time.
Right.
And she was like, I know.
I think it's because Emily's going back and forth. I mean, she does know that that wife was nice to her, but obviously, the wives are also kind of stuck in Gilead. Some can be bitches like Serena and others can be good. But once we see the episode and the decision that Emily makes at the end of the episode, she kind of pulled it, like, that wife wasn't doing anything to her specifically. She just represents what the wives are. So I think she was in between that kind of dilemma of remembering that maybe that wife was good to her, but yet all the wives are complacent with the system. And I think that's why she makes the decision that she makes.
Yeah. I think the sentence that she was not in favor of the university purchase was also very telling, because it looked like she was in favor with other things.
Yeah.
Just not that, because she's an intellectual herself. And that was a bit fucked in my eyes, because it's like, so you were complacent with every other thing, just not that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's when it suits them. They care when it suits them.
Right. Because she went to college too. So
yeah.
Where she doesn't want to get in trouble.
Only empathize with what you know.
Yeah, and at first it doesn't seem like that Emily wanted to give her the pills. She closed the case already.
Did she?
And then she opens it up again and says like, okay, yeah, here you are.
You need to die.
Yeah.
She opened it up after they were talking about, when Mrs. Connors, Marissa Tomei says something about, after she says it was love, do you think it matters to God if her affair was, they were in love or not? And then that's when Emily opens, back up the pills. I don't know, in this moment, I just flash back to Emily, I guess she fell in love.
With the Martha.
The Martha.
Yeah, with the Martha that she and then she might have been thinking back to then and thought, oh no, fuck it, here you go.
Yeah, because her girlfriend back then, she died because of that. So
exactly,
God, if you have to say it like that, didn't save her, and maybe she was pissed off because of that.
Yeah.
You know how Emily asks her, you know, why are you here? You know, is that why you're here? After she said about the college, obviously that's not why. She's just being, you know, she's being witty. But then I was thinking, why didn't she lie? You know, the wife could have lied and just said, oh, you know, I killed my husband because I hate this. I hate Gilead. I hate this oppressive system.
Yeah, she should have.
Yes.
She's not that smart.
Because she's a believer. She's a true believer. You can see it throughout her interactions, how she's praying, how she's, you know, people are treating her like shit because she's a wife, and these other women probably weren't wives, kind of like a prison vibe when she gets in. And she's like following the rules of Gilead of being submissive and stuff. So she is a true believer, even when she tells Emily that she didn't believe in the purges and the college purges because, you know, there's nothing wrong with being educated.
Right. So then we have an Emily flashback, and she sees a rope from the inside, faggot written on the sidewalk. She can't see what's at the bottom, so she runs down the stairs and outside, and she sees her boss hanging. And then it goes to everyone rushing to the airport. By the way, he was killed. He didn't hang himself, right?
He was killed because he's gay.
Right.
But I wondered how they put him up there, because she was on the bridge where he was hanged. It seemed like, and the windows didn't look like they are able to be opened. Yeah. So
it seems like it would have been hard, but it's a good
weird
cinematography. So then they rush so then they go to the airport, and everybody's at the airport. Everyone's trying to get out of America now. Or is it Gilead now? I don't even know. They say Sylvia and Oliver can go, but Emily has to stay. And she shows the marriage license, and he says that'll get you through. Is he tricking her, or did he believe her? Because it seems like he sent her then to the Handmaid.
He was being kind, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just things were happening so fast, and it was so confusing that like he thought like, oh, that's good, and he probably was not in agreement with what ended up happening.
Okay. Well, the laws actually changed that day too.
Yeah, in the morning.
Yes. Officer says, but I never I only noticed when I was rewatching this, I didn't realize Sylvia is Canadian, because that's what he said. He mentioned something.
That's how she gets out.
She said that in the first episode.
Well, so I was just curious, because it seems like where he sent her became a handmaid, like grilling, as opposed to a trying to actually get out of the country. But I like that you think that he's good, and I will go with that. So yeah, they started asking her questions about like whose egg it was. Clearly not relevant to their situation of wanting to get out of the country.
You were asking, I think in a past episode, how did they like tag Emily? I think how did they? And I think this is a scene where, because they're married, they're, you know, obviously lesbians, so they don't know. Maybe I think like from what egg did Oliver come from? So I think him grilling him about her was just, you know, the cherry on the cake, the cherry on top, however you say it, to be like, okay, they can leave, but you can't leave. You're going to be a handmaid. That's the way that I read it.
I think he specifies though, because if it was her actual egg, that means she's fertile. But if it was an implanted embryo, that means that the egg could have been donated. It could have been Sylvia's. It could have been anything, which means maybe they also had fertility issues and she couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah. So they're still focused on going to Canada, and he's like, you're not going to Montreal with them today. And they're like, but the marriage document, and he says, this is not valid. You're not married. The document is no longer recognized. It's forbidden. And now she realizes what's going on. Like, they try to get up, and the security guard pushes her back down, and she realizes that she's being grilled not to help her get through. I doubt she still understands what it means, but we know it's what we just discussed. Are you fertile?
Do you guys think that she was taken right to the Red Center from here? Like, where did she go after here?
Well, sorry, I'm pretty sure in the first episode of the whole series, when Emily's talking to June, Emily says she got caught at the airport.
Oh, okay.
She does.
Amazing.
She does get taken straight there. Wow.
Good catch. So then she must have been taken straight from there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this is fucked.
She probably was there for a while, like trying to sort things out, and then they took her.
Yeah, sure. I was just so sad to realize that she was just one day too late, because the law just changed, and if they would have gotten there one day earlier, she would have gotten out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's heartbreaking. And also heartbreaking is their goodbye.
Oh God.
Literally, I was like crying. Their forehead touch, they know, I mean, they get it. They know that this is probably like a much bigger deal than just saying, I'll be there soon, you know?
And they're both trying to hide like their tears from each other, you know?
And from Oliver.
Yeah, they're both trying to be strong.
For the kid.
Yeah, saying goodbye to her kid. Like, oh my God. It is so heartbreaking, the scene. She's a phenomenal actress, Alexis Bledel.
Yeah, she's so amazing. Like Alexis, like I feel like she's very she's not one of those actors who, you know, you get screaming out of them, or like she's very subtle, but when the way she uses her face is just like you get what she's feeling.
Yeah.
For me it was like, I mean, I have to say this now. I'm a big Gilmore Girls fan. So for me to see her in the first episode was like, I'm not sure if I can see her in another role,
in this role,
because I was so used to her being that. And I think that was really a problem, because many people said that she will always be Rory forever and always.
Right.
But now I look at her and she's Emily to me, because she played it so good. It was amazing. And now I can't see Rory anymore. It's like a whole different person, completely different. So yeah,
she's amazing.
Perfect.
She really is like one of my favorite characters outside of Nick and June and Lawrence and Emily. Anyway, so yeah, she has to say goodbye to her son. I can't even take it. It's so sad. And then they go up the elevator and she sees them leave. And then we hear Marissa Tomei throwing up, and Emily gets out of bed and goes to her. How are you feeling? And she says, I'm so sick. How did I get so sick so fast? It hurts. And Emily said, I know. Did you take your pills? And Mrs. Connors says, I don't think they're working. And then she finally gets it. What did you do? What did you give me? God will save me and you will suffer. You will burn. And then Emily said, every month you held a woman down while your husband raped her. Some things can't be forgiven. It'll take a few more hours.
They're working perfectly.
She's so cruel.
Evil.
So cold.
It was amazing. And the fact that the other women were just like looking on and didn't give a shit. They just watched her die. It was wow.
But it shows what happens when you push people like this.
Yes.
Like you torture and rape and abuse these women, and this is the consequence. This is the consequence of that. She doesn't care. Like, right. She would never do this pre-Gilead, but this is what it forced her into.
Right.
She loses her humanity in order to do that a little bit, you know, because it's a tough decision to do. Like every time I see it, I'm very conflicted, because the wives suck. I mean, I think of Serena and I'm like, yeah, but the wife wasn't really doing anything to her, but it's just what she represents, you know? So the fact that Emily, you know, throughout, I mean, all the seasons, she's been like calm, you know, like planning, plotting, looking. And the way she pulled this off was just like not a care in the world, not a remorse. Like, this is what you get, especially when she says at the end, some sins can't be forgiven.
And realistically, if you're at the colonies, you're going to die anyway, a slow death. And Emily still chose to make her die quicker.
Right.
But slowly.
Painfully.
And then Mrs. Connors like accepts she's going to die. And she says, Emily, pray with me. And Emily says, you should die alone. She is so cold and I love her.
Hi, bitch.
And then Emily sees Janine and they're both super happy to see each other. And it flashes to June watching Friends.
There's a story behind that Friends episode.
Right. I knew one of you would know it.
It's the best.
Yeah. So, well, the behind the scenes story of that is that I didn't realize this, but the Friends cast, the actors actually had it in their contracts that they had to give permission for scenes to be used from the show, like not the people who own the rights.
Uh-huh.
So they actually had to call Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox and Matthew Perry and ask for their permission. But the episode itself that she's watching is called The One with Phoebe's Uterus. And it's where Monica and Rachel are trying to explain the female orgasm and how to achieve it to Chandler.
I think Nick achieved that.
Yes.
Yes, he did. But it's, you know, I think it kind of shows like, you know, female pleasure is obviously not something that they care about at all in Gilead. And Nick obviously cares about that, you know, and important between the two of them, but it's a symbolic episode that they chose to show here.
Yeah,
and it's the most rebellious thing you could do. First watch something as a woman, as a handmaid, something about women being pleasured. So it's really another cherry on top for June to sit there and do just that.
I love it. It's a great juxtaposition to her life, you know. She's sitting here watching Friends, and she in Nick's brown shirt, may I add. I love the brown shirt. And then she has an idea and starts gathering things to make a memorial, the shoe. And the end is interesting to me because she genuinely prays at the end, with nooses hanging behind her after everything she's been through, after, Gilead.
But she's also praying. She's also praying, though, in a way you're not really, they don't pray in Gilead. They don't pray in a traditional,
no, they're not authentic,
like honest way. And her prayer was very honest and real, because I always believe that, I don't think June ever really stopped believing in God. I think she just was always,
Well, that's what's so fascinating to me.
The Gilead God is not her God. I mean, it's not that they've distorted it so much that it's not what June believes in, obviously. So she still has her faith that, is her real faith.
Did we know that she was religious before this even, though? I don't remember knowing that until now.
I've read that she was Catholic, but is that true? Like, do we have evidence of that?
She said her dad was, I remember in episode 1, or I think it was episode 1, where her dad was that was his parish at the church that was being torn down.
And Hannah was baptized, so she is Catholic. You're right. When does it show Marissa Tomei on the Scarecrow? Is it?
We missed it.
Before that. Yeah, I wondered how she got there outside, unseen. It must have been Emily that pulled her on the cross, right? Or some of the unwomen.
She probably had help.
Yeah, sure. And nobody saw it. That's coming back to the moment where I said that the guards are not that many guards. And they can obviously go outside whenever they want if they are in their barracks. So
yeah, it looks like it.
I found it funny that she's praying to God to save her, and she gets strung up on the cross.
Yes. And the aunt looked really pissed off. It's like, I mean, they will die eventually anyway, but she lost one of her workers, so.
I found this quote from Bruce. He was talking about how he went to scout the location for the colonies, and he was saying how terrible it was and how muddy and raining and freezing it was. I think one day they said it was like -16 with wind chill. He made a comment about Alexis Bledel, and he says, Alexis Bledel is a tough motherfucker.
Yes.
I love that.
The director, Mike Barker, asked the actors, there was 98 extras. They all had to roll around in the mud because they weren't dirty enough.
Oh, wow.
The cold mud. Oh, that'd be awful.
Yeah, that's kind of gross and horrible.
Mike Barker. Yeah. Both sex scenes episode were with Mike Barker. I forgot that.
He definitely deserves a shout out. Mike Barker, you are a sex directing god.
Mm-hmm. Well, Max did call him the master of sex.
So yeah.
I wish they'd bring him back for season 5.
Another thing I love about their whole sex scene is that they never speak a word that entire time.
Yes.
Like from the second she gets out of the car until they finish at the office and she tells him to try again. Mm-hmm. That's the first time in that whole sequence that they speak, which I just think it shows how between the two of them, they're just so good at reading each other's cues and body language that they don't need to speak.
I mean, they probably spoke between
sometime between the 6,
because they ate something, and but sure, for the first part especially.
Should we give a shout out to Anne Crabtree?
Anne Crabtree is amazing. The costumes in the show are just mind-blowingly perfect.
They are. And I read the costumes for the unwoman. She made them, very faded. They only have a little bit of color to signify that they're not dead yet.
Oh.
They still have a little bit of color in them.
Oh, that's really brilliant. The detail they put into this.
Why do we think the episode's called On Woman?
Well, I think all the colony workers, they're basically just slaves there to work until they die. Like, I mean, Gilead could easily just get some bloody machines to do it and, do that. But they're trying to, set an example on them, I suppose. And, they're doing the work that someone else could do, but they don't give a fuck about any of these women.
They only show June, which obviously she's an unwoman, Emily, the workers in the colonies, and the only wife that was shown was the unwoman wife because she sinned.
Yeah.
So I think that's where they were going. That's my impression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis of season 2, episode 2. And if you're a longtime fan of the show, come back on Wednesday to look for our deep dive into the same episode where we talk about the episode in the context of the show to date. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.